themselves in trouble or find themselves in a medical condition that they may not be able to afford, right? Because maybe something went wrong. Does he owe them their recovery? Does he owe them, lifetime life insurance? What are your feelings on that?
That is a good question, and it's a complex question. But I will tell you, I've learned through the process of learning about myself over the years, I've learned a lot about the way that I felt about Vince McMahon and the WWF, now WWE, over the years. Because at one time I was and there are a lot of wrestlers who end up being very angry and bitter. And I was one of those people that was very bitter and angry about not just Vince because he lied to me about this and that and it never happened and blah blah. You hear that story over and over again from people. And I was bitter and angry, and I wanted to blame him and blame anybody else, like Shawn Michaels and the Clique or whoever you wanted to put blame on. And the reality is, years and years later, when I had to finally, when I was getting into recovery, and I had to take a hard look at myself, I realized a lot of that shit I brought on myself, and I had to take ownership of my part in it. So I can't blame Vince McMahon for the things that happened to me in wrestling. I made a lot of mistakes, and I own those, and I take responsibility for that. He was and is a wrestling promoter. And that's what promoters do. They they come up with plans for different situations and different wrestlers and different talent. And some of those things they go through with, and some of them they don't because they change plans. It happens.
Right.
And I had to realize that. And the one thing though that I used to always think was, how can they not? It's not their responsibility that people became drug addicts either. It's not. But I used to kind of think it would be a good idea if they kind of helped some former workers that did break their backs for the business. And then they came out, I don't remember what year the first year was, but, they sent out a certified letter, and I went and picked it up and read it. It was anybody who's ever been under contract to the World Wrestling Entertainment or World Wrestling Federation, they would send and pay for rehab. And they started that program as part of their wellness program. And I have to respect that. Now, I had too much pride to ask them to pay for my rehab.
Yeah.
And actually, I still had insurance at the time because I was a school teacher. I had state insurance and all kinds of stuff until I got my license revoked when I, caught the charges and everything. But I appreciate the fact that they made that effort. That's a big deal.
Sure it is.
If they offer to send guys to rehab, that means they actually do care. And I know maybe people say, "Hey, he's just covering his ass." Maybe he is, but still, offering rehab is a huge deal to somebody who might not have access to it or doesn't even understand what it is because they've been so deep in that hell of addiction. Giving somebody, a lot of times you give somebody that opportunity and they learn these things about themselves and they make the changes. So I think that's a huge gift from them, So in that respect, I have to say, they have done some things to try and help some of the boys.
Because I appreciate you saying that, because it's like, for the average Joe like myself or Bruce, right? A lot of companies don't offer that, right? It's like you're on your own. And
Yeah.
I fail to understand, because someone becomes a billionaire because of his vision, and he convinces someone to do something, or this person wants to do it, and he makes a lot of money off of it, that he now is fiscally responsible for those people. I mean, the real world just doesn't act like that, right? It just, no one's fiscally responsible for you, right?
No, I have to take ownership of all the things I did. I knew what I was getting into. It was like the thing with the concussion deal. I knew what I was getting into, and I had a lot of concussions before I even went to the WWF. And somebody approached me. It's funny because it was after I got busted, and I was still on probation, And whoever, one of the lawyers from that lawsuit, for the concussion lawsuit, tried to contact me through my probation officer. I was like, are you kidding me? These people are looking for me through the probation? You got to be kidding me. And I never called them because it was the same attitude. I was like, I knew what I was getting into, and I can't blame Vince or the company for any concussions I had or anything else. I mean, my body is ravaged with injuries. I lost a foot, for God's sakes.
Right.
You know, but that was the chance I took. You know, I thought I was invincible at one time. I flew all over the place and landed hard on concrete and, you know, all sorts of other situations many times. But, you know, again, I got to take ownership of my part in that. I was bouncing around like an idiot and jumping around. I knew what I was getting into.
All right, I'm going to ask you this, and then Bruce, I'm going to let you take over because we're getting Bruce ready.
Good.
Get this opportunity. Feel free to rip them apart. How do you feel about GoFundMe pages?
GoFundMe pages?
Yeah.
I think there is a time and a place for GoFundMe pages. However, I think like most other things in today's society, they have been abused and misused and overrun with a lot of people that maybe don't need to have GoFundMe pages. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to throw something at you, and obviously I want your honest opinion. I'm sorry. When I see a guy like Jake the Snake Roberts, for example, who's made millions of dollars through his career, and he spent it all, right?
Right.
And now he's going to go have shoulder surgery, so he puts out a GoFundMe pages, and he expects these wrestling fans, and it's a large network of people. You know, you think if every wrestling fan gave $1 to Jake the Snake Roberts, the guy's going to be a millionaire again, right? I've got a problem with that. I just don't agree with it. And I'm asking you, I'm going to let you continue. I'm sorry I interrupted you. What are your thoughts about something like that example?
One of the very difficult lessons I had to learn about myself as I was going through recovery is there's going to be a lot of shit that goes on in the world around me that I don't agree with. But I've learned that, you know, I've just got to do my deal in life and stop worrying. I can't worry because, you know, I didn't, my pride wouldn't even let me use the WWE's money to go to rehab. I could never set up a GoFundMe. I don't see myself ever being able to do that. So when other people do it, it makes me kind of cringe a little bit. And yeah, I don't, but you know, it's, people are going to do it. I don't know. For me, it's, you know, I don't know if it's shame or what you call it. I have or don't have or whatever, but I don't know. I don't believe it's something I would ever do. So, and I don't. There's a lot. Most of the things I've ever seen on GoFundMe, I wouldn't give money to.
By the way, your subscriber count on YouTube just dropped by 5,000.
Yeah.
Bam. Go ahead, Bruce. It's all yours, big guy.
All right. Well, let's take a step back here. So, when did you actually decide to become a pro wrestler?
Well.
Now you're going to get into the boring shit there, bud.
I kind of knew when I was a kid. I was watching Championship Wrestling